Most people view Lake Champlain as only a two-dimensional resource, but the big lake has a third dimension, and exploring its cold, dark depths can be fascinating and surprisingly enjoyable. The Waterfront Diving Center in Burlington offers professional scuba instruction that opens up another world on Lake Champlain, one populated by schools of fish and historic shipwrecks.
Well, it's a feeling of weightlessness. It's as close to outer space as you're going to get. You know, it's the inner space.
The feeling of being underwater and seeing the sunlight diffuse down. I love the feeling of having a little bit of blinders on and being able to just appreciate where I am.
You're in a different world, a world that we're not supposed to be in. It's like being on a different planet.
Diving the depths of Lake Champlain isn't for everyone, but if you've ever considered taking the plunge, a great place to start is Waterfront Diving Center in Burlington.
The first thing we have is what? A tank. Right, what's in the tank?
Since 1988, its instructors have been introducing newcomers to the joys of scuba, which is an acronym for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
It's really quite easy. You need to be comfortable in the water. You can't have a fear of water. You have to be a reasonably competent swimmer. Virtually all different age ranges from 12 years old. I think the oldest person we've trained is probably over 70. Comfort in the water and good health are the important aspects of learning to dive. If you have those two things, learning to dive is not a problem. Is the water cold? You guys look cold. You're standing there shivering. You're not even underwater yet.
I thought this was scuba in the hot tub.
That's a different course.
To provide a sense of what it's like, Waterfront Diving offers one-day classes throughout the year called Try Scuba.
Try Scuba is a short orientation to scuba diving. We give people about a 20-minute or half an hour orientation to the equipment, how it works, the basic safety do's and don'ts, and then we take people in the shallow, safe environment of a pool or a shallow beach area and let them experience what breathing underwater is all about. For many people, they've never done it. So it's a real thrill to watch people breathe underwater for the first time. Their eyes get big and it hooks a lot of people instantly.
Cool. Feels a little weird, but pretty good. Pretty cool.
The next step is obtaining your scuba certification. It's needed to rent equipment and go on dive charters.
Scuba diver certification is somewhere between 25 and 40 hours of instruction, depending upon where you do it and what time of year you're doing it, whether the water portion is done in a lake or in a pool. The classroom portion, you learn about the physics, the physiology, the dive environment, dive planning, and things like that. The water portion is really devoted to developing skills to make you a thinking, comfortable, safe diver.
I became certified at age 14, but almost all of my diving has been in tropical waters. Only recently have I come to appreciate what I have in my backyard.
The wreck itself is 88 feet long.
Cold water or warm, a safe dive begins with good planning. Pierre LaRocque of Champlain Divers International was the dive leader and underwater videographer for a 2013 charter in Burlington Bay. My dive partner, Whit Montgomery-Nassif, and I were about to visit the O.J. Walker, one of several shipwrecks that are part of the Lake Champlain Underwater Historic Preserve. Pierre also works for the state protecting these cultural treasures.
There's, I think, a total of 9 wrecks here on the lake. 8 of them are in Vermont, 1 in New York. And we have buoyed wrecks as shallow as 15 feet down by Diamond Island to 110 feet up at Colchester Shoal with the Phoenix. So we have a wide, range of sites for just about every ability level of diver out there.
Our dive charter departed from Perkins Pier on a beautiful early fall morning. Within a few minutes, we were tying up to one of the buoys that mark the locations of the wrecks in the preserve. Before suiting up, we went over a few final details. All right, so Whit, you're my dive buddy. Hand signals. Okay, I got.
Okay, yep. The biggest thing is just to be able to communicate as fully and best you can. So we establish hand signals. It's good to be able to point out something interesting, but the important part is being able to tell someone you need their help, and that's why you have a buddy.
As soon as we were all in the water, we began our dive by bleeding out some of the air in our vests, which along with weight belts lets divers control their buoyancy. We were guided to the wreck by a rope leading from the buoy down about 70 feet to the bottom, which we couldn't see from the surface.
You enter a certain point and you don't see up and you don't see down. So it's a weird new world that can be a little disorienting, but as long as you watch your bubbles, you know which way's up. So I like that part of the darkness and the little bit of murkiness is appealing. Just it's just otherworldly and kind of ethereal almost. So then you drop down and then boom, there's the bottom. And today we saw the big bow in front of us, and it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
You can see whereabouts they are by their bubbles. Right now they're around the bow of the ship, probably looking at the anchor and the windlass. There's a lot to see on this wreck, so the bubbles will probably move fairly slowly.
The O.J. Walker was one of hundreds of canal boats that sailed Lake Champlain in the 19th century. Built in 1862, it sank during a severe windstorm in 1895, along with its cargo of bricks and tiles. Like most of the shipwrecks on the bottom of Lake Champlain, it has been well preserved by the deep, cold water.
There's some 300 shipwrecks here in the lake. Most of them are working class vessels that plied these waters from New York City all the way up to Quebec City. I think in the 1850s there were some 300 canal boats that used Burlington as a port of call. So there were a lot of these things. These were the tractor trailers of the 1800s. So they moved cargo and goods, almost year-round.
The Lake Champlain Maritime Museum is responsible for managing the 9 sites in the underwater preserve. It oversees the wrecks and the diving community that visits them.
Here are these great resources, cultural resources, and they need to be made available to the diving public and to the public in general. So if you're a diver, great, you can come and look at these sites and see them. If you're not a diver, you can go down to the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum, located in Vergennes, down at Basin Harbor, and you can view examples of all these sites, through the exhibits of the museum.
The museum offers visitors of all ages a comprehensive look at Lake Champlain's maritime history. Artifacts and small-scale replicas provide a glimpse of the shipwrecks without having to get wet. It also has full-scale replicas, like the Lois McClure, a schooner-rigged canal boat identical to the O.J. Walker. But there is nothing like visiting the shipwrecks themselves. It's an experience like no other.
For me, it's sensory deprivation in some ways and then sensory enhancement in another way. So you have less hearing, but you see so much more and you experience so much more. You feel the water temperature change in a thermocline and that kind of thing. See a fish move, scuttle away, and say hello, interact with the fish. Just watch them move. It's just beautiful to see something, you're entering their home.
After a little more than 30 minutes, our dive time was up and we slowly made our way back to the surface. I especially enjoyed being able to also take in some of the lake's natural resources.
Moves.
A lot of fish, a lot of smallies, tons of rock bass. That one hatch cover where there was a ledge in the back where there was a ledge where I was putting my flashlight, there had to be 200 rock bass.
Sure.
That was really cool. The endless beauty of Lake Champlain can take a lifetime to explore, but to truly appreciate all that the lake has to offer, a trip below the surface is a must. And as long as the diving community follows the motto, leave only bubbles and take nothing but pictures, the wrecks will be around for many generations to enjoy.
There are wrecks that are here in the lake where, there's a teacup on a saucer sitting on the cabin roof, where that when things started going wrong, the captain of the boat, set his coffee cup down and was doing whatever he thought he could do to try to save the boat and then got off. And that boat sits there, at depth now, and there's a coffee cup sitting on the deck of the roof, exactly where he left it. 100 plus years ago. So that kind of thing keeps me excited about diving.
It's a whole nother world down there. It's not like being in outer space, but it's a whole nother world. I mean, it's It's a different environment, it's a different feel. When you get your buoyancy neutral, the sense of being weightless is pretty cool.
When I look at Lake Champlain, I think about the history and what lies below the surface. And being able to marry my interests of diving and the shipwrecks is really what does it for me.
Scuba diving is an underutilized, under-accessed part of Burlington. You know, it kind of feels like a secret club that you've gone in and seen everything. It's just a happy place to be in a mask in the water.